You're listening to TALRadio, the information and entertainment arm of the Touch a Life Foundation. On TALRadio, the Touch a Life Foundation shares stories of kindness and information on how we can connect those around the world who might be in need of some kind of assistance with those parties who are generous enough to offer it. Today on the Robert Hicks Show, we have Jan Perry, the Executive Director of Shelter Partnership, Inc. Shelter Partnership is a Los Angeles-based nonprofit organization dedicated to working throughout Los Angeles County in California to help develop housing and resources for the growing number of people affected by homelessness in the community. Jan, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Good to have you. Let me ask you, as we're getting started, just Executive Director of Shelter Partnership, how long have you been with the organization?
Well, I came in during the lockdown because of the untimely passing of our founder, Ruth Schwartz.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, and it was very sad. And I was contacted and asked to come in on an interim basis. And then after 6 months, the board asked me to become permanent.
Oh, I'll be darned. It's a bad situation, as you explained it, but certainly congratulations to you on, having the opportunity. What's your personal background? What did you do before coming into Shelter Partnership?
Well, I've been a public servant for probably more than 30 years. I've been an elected official. I've been a manager of economic and workforce development. I was a councilwoman for an area that included Skid Row for 12 years in the city of Los Angeles, which is how I had the opportunity to work very closely with Ruth Schwartz, the founder of Shelter Partnership, and benefit from her mentorship for many, many years. We got a lot of people off the street and into housing and into services. And so I've been a public servant for a very long time.
Outstanding. So how long has the organization Shelter Partnership been around?
Over 30 years. It was founded by Ruth Schwartz and Judge Harry Pragerson. Judge Pragerson has also passed away too, but their legacy stands strong. And they were way ahead of their time in understanding that there were, I guess, gaps, if you will, in the supply chain of helping organizations that provided direct service to their clients who were homeless and vulnerable. And they came up with this idea of creating Shelter Partnership to take donated products, clothing, shoes, backpacks, hygiene kits, anything that isn't food, and then distributing it through a network of social service providers in Los Angeles County.
With the name Shelter Partnership, is there an implied partnership among your organization, between your organization and whom in general? I mean, can it be just anybody or any particular targeted organization?
No, our target is organizations, more often than not nonprofit organizations or community-based organizations that have clients, organizations whose clients are vulnerable, homeless, with a dual diagnosis or multiple diagnoses, people who need help, people who need housing, and then of course people who need clothing and items to stabilize their lives and to reestablish their lives. So we focus on that, and we do some business. We do some donations with schools and school districts. Any organization that has a 501c3, that has capacity to store items that we give to them, and that has clients, and we do it 4 times a year for each organization. At the current time, we're nearly 300 partners.
Wow. And while you mentioned the 501c3 status, I'd like to mention that the Touch a Life Foundation is a registered 501c3 nonprofit organization founded on the principle that helping others is good for society. What we do is we leverage technology to essentially connect those in need with those willing to give. And so that's why we are talking today with Jan Perry, the Executive Director of Shelter Partnership, is we want to do whatever we can to assist shelter partnership in achieving more in the community. Now, Jan, what is the sort of the geographic scope that you cover? I mean, it's LA County. Is that pretty much define it, or anything beyond that?
Well, yes, we do cover all of Los Angeles County. We're beginning to get a little bit into Ventura County and just a little bit into Orange County. And on our website, which is shelterpartnership.org, there is a place there if you are interested in becoming a partner, where you can go there and see our criteria. And part of that includes, having a taxpayer ID number and, again, demonstrating that you have the capacity to store goods that we might donate to you. And also, who are your clients? So you kind of have to explain, what your organization does and who the clients are, that sort of thing.
Okay, so Jan, I saw that on the website, I did some reading up on your organization. It kind of said the stated mission of Shelter Partnership is to do a number of things to collaboratively solve homelessness in the LA County area. Things like policy analysis, program design, resource development, and even advocacy in support of agencies and local governments that serve the homeless. Can you kind of articulate what some of the works are that you kind of do within those processes?
Yeah, I think we have a technical team, people who are highly skilled in policy development and program development. And we work with not only local governments, but county, state, and federal, giving advice, providing framework, providing solutions. We have focused in the past on helping to design programs for veterans and military families, and to be able to encourage and teach community-based organizations to work together collaboratively so that you can build the housing with the services on site, with Shelter Partnerships input, not only technically, but then we can provide those day-to-day or those quality of life items that the clients will need. So we encourage a much more holistic approach to solving homelessness, as opposed to, historically everybody operates in a silo and people don't necessarily, or organizations don't necessarily work together. So, and that applies not only to veterans, but, to families and working through the foster care system and county-wide services to provide a much more coordinated and integrated approach to keeping families together and making sure that children and their families are able to go through the continuum of care with the appropriate support that they need, support, services, housing, and attention. And then, of course, the most challenging of all is dealing with people who suffer from chronic homelessness. And we've developed models that have provided community-based organizations with a consolidated effort to make sure that those who fall in and out of homelessness always have a place to reset and to restart. Of course, the fastest growing population in this country, not just Los Angeles, is older folks, homeless older folks. And we were ahead of the curve on that, in not only getting federal funding to do the study and the data analysis for that, to be able to, again, advise our local governments on what was coming in the future for homeless older adults, and to prepare responses to that so that we could be ready to take care of people before they fall into homelessness.
Yeah, and I was looking at the focus areas that you had listed on the website, and you mentioned the veterans, which we hear a lot about that, and entire families that are homeless. You mentioned the challenge with chronic homelessness and even the older adults situation. But another one that was mentioned was persons with HIV, AIDS, and other populations with disabilities. Is there a particular challenge in that part of it? I would think so.
Well, yeah, of course there is.
People that are
housing, because people who have disabilities or special abilities or mental health challenges, more often than not, it's extremely hard for them to get housing, and even more challenging to get engaged in if you will, the continuum of care, so that they can get the help, they can get vouchers, they can, get medical attention, healthcare attention. And so you have to customize our approaches to that. And so we've been in Shelter Partnership has been very involved in advising the city of Los Angeles, not only through its housing department, but in implementing the housing opportunities for persons with AIDS, and that's called HOPWA, if you will, so that you can really understand what it needs to be done to meet the needs of people who are living with those challenges.
And you've got quite a need there in California. I know I always learn something new whenever I'm doing these interviews and when I'm looking at things ahead of time. And I was seeing that Los Angeles County has one of the highest homeless rates in the nation.
Right.
And I know other places do. Like I've heard of things in like San Francisco and some of the other major cities. But it's certainly a lot of work to be done. So where can our listeners find the Shelter Partnership? What's the best way to connect with you and get more information?
Well, you can go to shelterpartnership.org, and then my email is jperry, Perry, at shelterpartnership.org.
Okay. And I understand your main office is located in Los Angeles, California, right on South Grand Avenue?
Yes, it is. But I think the bigger issue is our warehouse, which is in Bell, California. Okay. And our warehouse is 105,000 square feet. And this is where all of the donated items go. And that's our distribution point.
Okay. What town did you say?
Bell, Bell, California.
Okay.
I mean, if somebody wants to mail something to us through snail mail, they can always send it to the office. But the shelter itself is located in Bell.
Okay. Okay, very good. And how many people are involved in your organization?
You mean as far as employees or?
Yeah, employees, and even if you have any numbers on, I guess I saw a number of like over 500 volunteers are used each year. Just an idea of how big your organization is, or even how small.
Well, yeah, it's interesting because we run a very high impact organization, and we have fewer than 20 people who are on staff. We also have an associate board, which is very, very active and very involved in, creating opportunities and teaching people about homelessness and what they can do, and bringing people into the fold to volunteer their time and their help. And we have a associate board. They're younger folks.
Young Professionals Associate Board, right?
That's correct. Yeah. So they bring people in and get them involved. Yeah. So
I saw they have a number of ways that they work with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. Now, before COVID, we had a lot of volunteers in and out of there. Since we've had COVID, we've had to cut back because we have to make sure that everybody stays safe. But hopefully maybe this year or by the next year, we'll be able to ramp it up again on having volunteers come in and help us.
Yeah. Obviously, the COVID thing changed the dynamics on everything.
Absolutely.
And hopefully we're not going to get hit too hard with that kind of, like it might be ramping up again. What kind of help would you desire from our audience? I mean, what are the different ways that people can help out?
Well, if they're aware of organizations that would benefit from using or working with or developing a relationship with Shelter Partnership, ask them to contact us. We're constantly growing our donor base, and no contribution is too small. I have a stack of checks that I'm going to take to the bank tomorrow, and there's one in here as small as $50.
I wanted to point out to our listeners, there is on your website, and that is shelterpartnership.org.
Correct.
That there's a web page form for monetary donations, and there's a separate web page form for product donations.
Right.
So can you give us an idea what kind of product donations would you seek or do you tend to get?
Well, we get massive donations or contributions from corporations, and we get underwear, socks, blankets, coats, jackets, men's clothing, women's clothing, and of course children's clothing. Anything that you would think that somebody would need, someone who has nothing would need, that's what we take. We don't take food stuff. We only take non-perishable items. We occasionally get small furniture items. Occasionally we get offered mattresses and things like that. Those are the more unusual donations, but things that people can wear, basically.
Okay.
And of course, lots of
Very
hygiene kits. We get lots of hygiene kits. And of course, during COVID, we had lots of face masks. We don't need any more hand sanitizer. We have hand sanitizer to last a lifetime. But, things to help people take care of their bodies and to be able to clothe themselves.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's good. It helped to clarify some of that, especially the fact that it's non-food items. But I was seeing on the website again that since 1989, over $267 million in non-perishable items were distributed. And correct me if I'm wrong. The work that you do is essentially free, right?
Yes, we are not doing this for these items to be resold. They are only to be given away, and they can't be traded. And they are only go to organizations that pledge to make sure that they go directly to their clients, and it's all free.
Is your organization a standalone organization only, or are you part of any larger organization or affiliated with anything nationwide or even globally?
We're a standalone organization.
Okay.
So
one of the reasons that's fine. One of the reasons I ask that question is sometimes we have listeners that can be anywhere globally. Yeah. So sometimes if you have an affiliation with something across the U.S. or even other parts of the globe, we like to potentially point that out. But that's fine. It's good to at least clear that up for our listeners.
Yes.
So the volunteers, when you have volunteers come and work with you, what kinds of volunteer opportunities are there? Where can one volunteer, and what can they expect to do if they do volunteer?
Volunteers, if they want to volunteer, they can contact the associate board on the website, and they do social activities to raise money to support Shelter Partnership. Again, before COVID, we had volunteers going into the warehouse and helping to sort items for distribution. We haven't done that since the lockdown, and we have not resumed it since COVID's on the rise, if you will. So, our volunteer opportunities are limited at this time, but we expect by next year, things will have settled down and we can again start developing some group activities so that people can come in and put some time in with us, get to know us.
Yeah, and like you say, and that's one of the questions I typically ask is how has the COVID situation, it kind of rocked the whole world so substantially, obviously, and how it has affected you. And you've already addressed that question.
Yeah.
It's hit you in a number of ways, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, we have to keep the employees in the warehouse very safe because they're the ones who are interacting with our clients. And so, if one person gets sick, it could affect the entire operation of the warehouse.
Are there any particular accomplishments that you would like to point out? I mean, I mentioned the one, obviously, with the volume of items that have been distributed. Are there any other things, any milestone achievements or anything along the journey that you might want to point out?
I believe last year we distributed nearly $20 million worth of donated goods through our network. So that's pretty significant.
Yeah.
And this year, we're waiting to distribute a large donation from the Department of Defense of blankets.
Okay, very nice. Mm-hmm. Another thing that I like to bring up when we're having conversations like this for our listeners that are listening to TALRadio, that essentially TALRadio is brought to you by the Touch a Life Foundation. That's where the TAL comes from. And we do like to invite our listeners to, a lot of times people ask, how can I get directly involved? Well, the Touch a Life Foundation actually has an app that can be used to connect our listeners to organizations like yours. And so
Oh, great.
essentially what we want to invite our audience to do is please go to download the TAL Giving app. It's TAL Giving, Giving, the TAL Giving app. It's a platform to help organizations like Shelter Partnership and so many others, where it's kind of like, think of it as a dating service of persons that want to
Okay.
help out and organizations that need help. We facilitate that connection, and that's what the TAL Giving app is all about. So if you go to the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store, you can download that app and make a connection that way, in addition to the other ways that we have mentioned.
It's wonderful. Thank you.
Anything, do you have any events upcoming that you want to make anybody aware of?
We just had our annual gala, which we normally do in the summer, and that's our primary fundraiser. But as we wind down towards the end of the year, most of our partners have some kind of a holiday distribution for their clients. So we're gearing up for that. And the donations are coming in pretty fast and heavy. And then obviously we distribute them amongst our partners so they can get them to their clients either for Thanksgiving or for December, obviously for the holidays.
Is there anything that would surprise our listeners at all about an organization like yours or your work in the organization?
I think that I think people would be surprised at how direct this business model is, in that we have a base of support of corporations and private donors and philanthropic organizations that not only fund us, but provide us with these incredible goods and, of course, financial support. And that, we don't have a lot of employees. I said overall, the whole organization has less than 20. And that our output is on steroids in terms of what we do with a small number of people and the incredible number of lives we affect by working through networks and working collaboratively and strategically. And that was the vision of Ruth Schwartz and Judge Harry Prakerson. And it's proven to be a highly, highly successful business model.
Yeah, and earlier when I asked how many employees you have in the organization, it's interesting because on the one hand, it's you always want to by default you kind of think of corporate strength or something like that, but I would say it's refreshing to to talk with an organization that is nimble, small, not a lot of overhead. Because I'll tell you, I've seen so many cases where charitable donations have disappointed in the percentage that gets out there to people.
Yeah.
And really into the hands of the people that need it. And clearly you're running lean and moving that along to the people that desperately need it, right?
Yeah, I think that if you look at the number of people that go into pushing goods out in our nonprofit or social service provider supply chain, it's pretty astonishing. It's an incredible model.
Yeah, that's very impressive. Dan, I want to take just one last question for you, and kind of sum it up a little bit. And it's an unusual question, but I'll tell you in just a moment why I'm asking it.
Okay.
But what does working for and among the Shelter Partnership, tell me what it does for you as an individual. What does it mean to you to be a part of that? Give our listeners kind of an insight into the feeling of what that does for you.
Well, as I said before, I'm 30 plus years in terms of being a public servant, and I represented Skid Row for 12 years, which is the area that has the highest concentration of homeless people in the city and probably the county. And so it's something that I feel very deeply about and frustrated and angry because people's lives are being lost. So the chance to work at Shelter Partnership has given me another platform to channel those feelings of wanting to do something and those feelings of helplessness, if you will, and put them into a positive approach to helping people overcome this, and to be strategic about it and to be able to measure the results feels very good.
I like to have our listeners hear that for a couple of reasons. One, I always say a job pays you in a number of ways. It pays you financially, it pays you also educationally, but it also can pay you in your heart. And, and a lot of people, myself included, in our day-to-day jobs, you're sitting there thinking to yourself, what difference am I making in the world? And that's kind of one of the things that I think your organization and your role is really big on, paying you on that part. And so, and that what we're all about here at the Touch of Life Foundation is, like I say, making the connection between people that are generously interested in giving, people or corporations or any organization, make that connection between organizations that want to give with organizations like Shelter Partnership that are working so hard to help people that are less fortunate than us. Jan, I want to thank you for being with us today and sharing your insights, your experience, and all that. As I mentioned earlier, we ask our listeners, go download the TAL Giving app so that you can register yourself, look for the organizations that are registered, and find a way to make the connection. Or you can go directly to the Shelter Partnership website and also make that connection that way too. That again is shelterpartnership.org. And by the way, their phone number is 213-688-2188. And they are in Los Angeles, California, and they would love to hear from you, I'm sure. Correct, Jan?
Yes, absolutely. But the best way is if somebody wants to contact me directly, because we're all working remote, is jperry@shelterpartnership.org.
Okay, great. I'm glad you pointed that out because I too am working remote, not in the office, and so so many people are doing that now. So I'm glad you interjected that. Okay, well again, we have been talking to Jan Perry, the Executive Director of Shelter Partnership Incorporated. We thank Jan for meeting with us today to share their story. I'm Robert Hicks, and we thank you, our listeners, for spending time with us today, and most of all, for your generous nature in following us and supporting our objectives. Please stay tuned with us on the TALRadio network for additional uplifting stories. Have a great day.